Moscow, Idaho is a normally peaceful college town until November of 2022 when an unthinkable crime happened. The victims were Kaylee, Madison, Zana, and Ethan, four college students living off campus in what was known as like a typical college party house. As of July 2025, there has been a guilty plea and a life sentence in this case. I'm not going to be stating like exact times as it comes down to the timeline for the night, just because it is hard for me to keep all the separate times straight and I do not want to get it wrong. But it is known that Kaylee and Maddie were at the corner club and then got food from the grub truck before returning home. Zana and Ethan went to a party at Ethan's frat house and then they returned back to the King Road house. And I believe Bethany and Dylan are said to be out with each other, but I'm not sure where. But we do know everyone was home by 4 a.m. and Zana got a DoorDash order and was on TikTok around that time. The house was built on a hill, so you had access points on two of the three floors. On the bottom floor, you could get in using the front door. This is also where Bethany's room was, which was one of the surviving roommates. And then on the second floor, which was considered to be the main floor, you could go through the sliding glass door and get to the backyard. This floor also had the kitchen, the living room, Dylan, which is the other surviving roommate's room, and then Zana's room as well. And then on the top floor was Kaylee and Maddie's room. Despite Dylan seeing a masked man in all black, the 911 call was not made until 8 hours after the murders were said to occur. When investigators got there, Dylan told them that she heard what she thought was Kaylee playing with her dog. Then she said, "Someone's here with a knife." Dylan opens her door and doesn't see anything, so she goes back to her bed. Then she thought she heard a scream, so she opens her door for a second time, still sees nothing, so she goes back to her bed. Then she hears what she thinks is crying coming from the bathroom and a male voice she doesn't recognize saying he's here to help her. She also said that it was not in a nice way, but in like a creepy sort of way. She opens her door a third time and sees a man in all black with bushy eyebrows walking towards her. They make eye contact and then he leaves out the back door. So she shuts and locks her door, tries to get a hold of her roommates, and she can only get a hold of Bethany. So Bethany tells her to run down to her room. Bethany told investigators that she saw a flash under her door, almost like a sparkler or a firework, and then heard someone fall, but that was it. When Dylan gets down to Bethany's room, they try to get a hold of the roommates again and can't. They weren't sure if it was one of Ethan's frat brothers playing a prank on him or if Dylan even saw what she thought she saw since they had been drinking most of the day. So then they say that they go to bed. When they supposedly get up in the morning, they notice none of the roommates are awake, so they try to call them, can't get a hold of them. So being scared, they call their friend to bring her boyfriend over to take a look. Hunter goes inside, finds Zana, tells the girls to call 911 for an unconscious person. Once the police go in and find Zana and Ethan, then they mention that Kaylee and Maddie are supposed to be home as well. That's when investigators go up and find the bodies of Kaylee and Maddie upstairs in Maddie's bed. And this is where I have a lot of problems because based on Dylan and Bethany's phone records, they in fact did not go to sleep. They were on Snapchat, Instagram, they were editing pictures. And so if they were so scared, why were they just like on social media? Also, looking at the released crime scene photos, it looks like there was some sort of cleanup before the police got there. Based on touch DNA found on a sheath upstairs by Maddie's body, cell tower activity, and Dylan's statement of bushy eyebrows, an arrest is made on December 30th, 2022. Brian pled guilty to all 4 counts of first-degree murder on July 2nd of 2025 to avoid the death penalty, and then on July 23rd, he was sentenced to 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole. I do think Brian was involved. I think there's a reason his DNA was there. It's not coincidence. But I think he had to have help. I think there was a cleanup and there's no way that he could have done that on his own. I think that there's no way Dylan and Bethany don't know more information, with the fact that they would have had to be awake during the time of this cleanup happening. I don't know what their reason for hiding information is. I don't know if we'll ever figure out what is going on, but this case is truly about Xana, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee. And just, I hope their family can get the answers that they deserve.